Hey fam, just got through making a demonstration video about the Fender Strat and how I have sort of customized it to make it my own over the years. It's a 99 that I bought 10 or 11 years ago when I graduated from school the first time, or was it the second time or whatever. I've lived more lives than I can generally keep up with, you know, between the military and being an expat and filmmaker, working on yachts, living in Florida, living in Rome, living in Naples, Italy, back home in Texas, you name it. And for me, so it's all about, I think maybe more than a lot of people who you might find speaking to you like this on social media, I'm after authenticity, and I'm not trying to buy my way into whatever stupid elite club or rare item, you know, that I think is too often touted on this. And I mentioned this yesterday, and this video is of course about this beautiful now Burgundy upcycle jacket. But before I harp on the jacket, you know, I don't begrudge or judge anybody who wants to have nice things. We all want nice things. We all like nice things. But our definition of nice and the motivation for what we're looking for and why we call one thing nice over another can vary greatly. Your mileage will vary, as they used to say. And to that end, like, there's a content creator whom I respect pretty much, did a video the other day, or it was just yesterday. I'm gonna tuck this in before I throw this jacket on so I don't look a complete slouch. Where the whole point of the video was to talk about t-shirts and how t-shirt brand Y, which is of course it was some exotic ass t-shirt made in artisans in some other foreign country, as if America just doesn't have anybody that can competently make a damn t-shirt. But loop wheel construction changes the way the t-shirt is constructed. It would theoretically and arguably make the structure of the t-shirt stronger. There's nothing wrong with it. And if it feels nicer, lasts longer for you, depending on what you're doing, fine, go with it. And I think, you know, people will tell you that something that's made to a given standard with a given technique will last longer. And yes, that is not a lie, but you have to factor in, what are these people doing for a living? You know, are they going through some sort of military training? Are they going through SEAL training wearing these t-shirts? Or are they just wearing a freaking t-shirt? Because if they're not really doing anything in the t-shirt that they've now paid $400, $500, $600 for, they're just making other videos. They're sitting on their tuchus telling you that you also need to buy $400 or $500 t-shirts. So they're just walking around the city wearing the t-shirt. Then what are we doing here, you know? So the exorbitance of the cost has to be factored in by the use. And use isn't just that you had it for a long time. You know, other items, some items are more durable than others based on the lifestyle of the person wearing them. What is this person doing? And it's the same thing about selvage denim, right? These are my now customized, totally unrecognizable Brave Stars. Because you know me, I've been a Brave Star guy. Probably going back 10 years as long as I've owned that guitar. Hope you watched the guitar video. It's some of my better playing and a guitar that I'm hopefully going to be selling. You know, just time to sort of replace it. But the Brave Stars are amazing, and I'm rough on everything I own. I'm rough on my watches. I'm rough on my cars. You know, I'm rough on my t-shirts. I'm rough on my jeans. And when I say rough, I mean I'm 60% of the time, between 40 and 60% of the time, really pushing it because I wear things in all weathers, in all weather, all types of weather, rain, shine. I don't always go out of the way to protect the leather. I'll do, you know, some of it I do. So horsehide, you know, horsehide isn't as much of a factor. It's not going to develop a patina like some of the other lesser leathers, the other types of animal hides, because it's, you know, steer hide. But there are, unlike other leather jackets that are, people will advertise. This G1 flight jacket is from World War II, from Korea, from Vietnam. It's kind of questionable because you know, those hides let in, they're porous and allow in for a lot of moisture, and moisture can allow in for, you know, a lot of things that will just wear it out. make it rot, undo, with fungus, whatever. Whereas steer hide, it's a different animal, literally and figuratively, and just is less apt to that. But on with my ramblings. If you're just walking around in a $400 t-shirt, you probably, theoretically and arguably, could have gotten just as much longevity, or even at 60-70% of the same longevity out of your $10 Walmart t-shirt, if all you're doing is just sort of, you know, not like you're doing push-ups, going through military training in the damn t-shirt. Which is, thank God, why you've got that military standard, because, you know, especially when you're talking about the people in the military with the direct combat jobs, or the people that have done things, or even the people who work in areas exposed to, oh, I don't know, things like the ocean, you know, salt water, salt air, that environment can really undo a lot of man-made things. And so then you're going to give a little bit more credence to it. But just some random dude, even myself included, if you just have to pay $400 for a t-shirt, you know, but let's kind of give these people pause here, you know. Something could be made of the farts of the rare alpha unicorn, you know. This is, you know, the guitar, it's wood and it's metal, man. You know, the things that truly make any inanimate object special are there stories attached to this inanimate object that I think are cool, that I want to relate to? And then can I combine that with my own narrative to make it something even more interesting? But just almost as a conversation piece. It's a cool story to tell your buddies at the bar, or, you know, even your followers online. But it doesn't always translate into, I need to pay $400 for this t-shirt. You know, and to connect the dots. So I hope this is good, because I want more height on this, because this is about a 50 lens on these damn cameras front, and what that means is that unless you have it a little high or a little low, it'll add too much to the belly, and I've got enough issues with my belly. There, I think that's a little bit more flattering. I'm rambling about a guy with a t-shirt, and there's nothing wrong. I recently purchased not one but two spool-wheeled, I can't remember the word, those high-end shirts that I found at an interesting price. So I'm going to product test them myself, and that will include a couple of trips to the gym and jogging and, you know, a bike ride and stuff. I want to see what the deal is, you know, if it feels actually better or any different. But I didn't pay $400 for the damn things anyway. Back to my beautiful Burgundy upcycled. And of course, there's that word, and here I go, right? If you follow me for any amount of time, you're like, oh, okay, that's why he's whining about this stuff. There are leather jackets of this ilk, generation, type, and design. You know, the mid-century sort of Shot Perfecto originated this design. Among other things, Shot has a storied past, including a lot of military contracts and some excellent stuff. So they deserve the hype. This became a standard for a very long time if you rode a big air-cooled, often air-cooled, you know, cruiser motorcycle from post-war, after pre-war, all the way up to, you know, modern times. This is style Terminator War. It's double-breasted. Generally, the zipper is curved, and there's variations on it. There's a particular variation on this that I'm looking for, but I got this one at a great price because this is an acquired taste as a design that doesn't favor everybody's body style. Although this is one of the few vintage designs that if you're a modern shaped person, it still can flatter you, probably way more than the flight jackets and bomber jackets that are, you know, just legendary and touted all over. And that's probably, you know, that's another discussion. But if you are a modern wide person, I think this is a little bit more flattering. Just you have to be more careful about the cut. And this zips up and all this other stuff. Let's see, damn thing. It's not so much about the fit of this one. It's what I'm getting at is that you can find these all day long, and when you find them online for sale, they're hundreds of dollars. And so I've got this for sale for $101, and kind of like my observations with some of the other things that I've upcycled, they don't quite get the same traction. And I'm always like, well, what are we doing here? If you are fascinated with the item that's made out of the rare butt hairs and farts of the alpha blue unicorn, then get it, but I don't, you coveting a bunch of silly, nonsensical stuff that you're only going to wear every now and then, you know, you're actually not going to be able to buy yourself into the respect. I get it, you know, you get a dopamine high out of feeling good about yourself. See, I've got this, you see this rare t-shirt, you know, and I understand that. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that, but put it in its category. And if there's something else that comes along, just like with the loop wheel t-shirts that I found, God, I think I found one for $55, $65 or whatever, as opposed to the $400. And again, when I did research into this, I did just, loop wheel, bam, 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 I'm purchasing, swipe the card. I researched the maker, and they said, you know, the same thing. We've got premium cotton. We use the longest strands of cotton sourced from these people for this reason, and use, you know, handmade this and handmade that. They checked almost the same boxes as the one being touted by the other guy. And so with this, right? The only difference with this is that it's not the original color. This was black, and then it was orange, and then it was red, and then this burgundy, which is darker red. And is it perfect? No. But like a lot of things, does it deserve to be like, okay, well, I'm just going to sort of disregard it because it just doesn't make me feel good about myself because it's not completely original, numbers matching, you know. The vet, which, God, we're going to work on the vet Friday, I got to confirm. Finally, after like so many months of delays, this, that, and the other thing, and we're going to retune the carb and rejet the carb, and we'll do some other things. And I discovered I need to get new wheels for the vet, but that's no real shock. But I'll be able to drive around the neighborhood again. You'll see me revving it and driving around doing all that cool old car shit. But I don't think that's the numbers matching motor, and I don't want you to give a shit. And I think one of these things, this obsession, and I'm hoping people they don't have to leave it all behind. It's nice to have original stuff. It's part of what makes nice things nice, if they are indeed nice, but they've got to fit into your lifestyle and serve you. I don't need a numbers matching Corvette from that generation if it's going to be, you know, $35, $40, $50, $60,000 or more. And I'm also dealing with some of the few design shortcomings from that generation. I'd rather get one from a few years later that has a lower horsepower motor and isn't quite as coveted by the collectors, because collectors, who gives a fuck what they think? And you end up with something that I can modify, not even do an LS swap. And if you're a car guy, you know what I'm talking about. You basically put a modern Corvette engine into an old Corvette, and it's not terribly complex and difficult. It's just kind of dealing with the computer stuff and how you're going to deal with, you know, a car that may or may not have the same emissions standards or whatever as a modern one. But it's quite common to take new Corvette engines, going back to the 90s actually, and putting them in all sorts of hot rods, sometimes not even Chevys. But what I'm rambling about with that is sometimes modification is better. It fits what you're trying to do better. Watch people are the worst for this, because if you take a Rolex that's 60 years old, and unless you take it to Rolex itself and have them, there can be all sorts of certified people that can replace the entire insides or whatever, the movement, get the movement updated and just sort of improved and just make it a better modern piece. Then you can't, like the watch people, no, it has to have been old and what, gonna be broken, lose time, not tell great time. The purpose and function of the watch is to tell time as best as it can. The purpose of the car is to give you as much driving entertainment and experience as it can. The purpose of the jacket is to keep you warm and yeah, look cool and everything and be a vibe. But you know, nobody in the real world is really bothered with that. When they see it, hell, most people don't even know the details about it. They're just gonna say, wow, that's a cool watch, it's nice, it's Rolex, it's great. You know, they're still gonna accrue and give to you the same vibe, energy, spirit, and admiration that you're wanting anyway. It's just so strange, the shit that people get up to, the shit that people elevate, venerate, and then the shit that people attempt to look down upon is always something that I will, just makes me wonder, like, who cares? Why are you bothered by that? You know, why are you bothered by something so superficial? Does it look, walk like a duck, talk like a duck, quack like a duck? Do you want to look like a duck? Then damn it, wear the duck. Get the duck. You know, if it rocks your world the way you want it to rock your world, if the guitar sounds the way it sounds and looks the way it needs to look, and that's another thing. I hope, like I said, I hope you watch the video because it's one of the better ones, demonstrations for the Strat. But electric guitars, like blue jeans, have a large vocal sect group, people in their following that, just like people with their wearing jeans, they're gonna be modified, tore up from the floor, have holes in all that stuff, they're gonna look distressed. Well, electric guitars, you can pay $5,000 for an electric guitar that looks like somebody dragged it behind a pickup truck. $5 grand. And that's a similarity between, electric guitars and blue jeans, and people will give you ungodly amounts of money for that, as long as it was done by a professional. Someone who took the guitar apart, maybe even the manufacturer, and paid someone, sometimes up to a 5-year waiting list, hundreds of dollars an hour, to meticulously then destroy the guitar in just the right way. I'm not even joking, it's called relicking. So denim has distressing, and high-end electric guitars have relicking, and those two are the exact same thing. And of course, cars, it's the opposite. I mean, someone's not gonna be able to sell you $1 million, unless it's attached to a movie star or something, but $1 million 67 Mustang that looks like it was, sideswiped and had a, headlight kicked out. They're like, I'm not gonna give you that money for the car, it's gotta be mint. But other products that end up being high-end, jeans and electric guitars, have that. And so I'm not arguing to go to that extreme, but I am saying either or, do what you like, it's your money. I'm broke as a joke, it doesn't matter. But also don't let these different perceptions either way, this is so cool. And that's the case of what I'm complaining about. The more I look at this, and I guess I need to style this and wear this out, but it's just so hot here in Texas. It's difficult to find a day where this is going to be something that's a norm, and I think you have to style it a certain way, and I blame that on the epaulets. That's the only thing I don't like about this design. This is, of course, it speaks to the military origin of this thinking. At that one point, this was just manly stuff. Epaulets are for military rank. They're the retired guy. Here you go. So you can put your rank on this and wear them on your shoulder, and everybody knows what your rank is. And that, for some reason, transferred over into the civilian standard of clothing, during the Cold War, especially by the 70s, it was a thing, and I absolutely hate epaulets. I think they look so stupid just on random clothing. But they do bolster the shoulder just that much more, so you can, you look, like you've got some authority. I have authority. Look at these shoulders. You want to go, man? You want to go? You can pretend now that you've got bigger, get to the chopper, that kind of nonsense, And again, I've lived lives, I'm retired military, I don't feel the need to buy something blessed with the rare farts of the golden unicorn to make myself feel so special. And I wish more people would sort of vibe on that without going to extremes, because when I say that, I wish it was less of a thing. I'm not criticizing people who do it, because I don't think about people who do it. And I think Ferraris are works of art, and they're awesome and they're beautiful, and I can see people paying real money for certain works of art and feats of engineering in automotive spaces. Are the old ones worth $25-30 million? And yes, there's Ferrari GTOs that will sell at auction upwards of $80 million. And I don't necessarily sneer at that either, because there's a rarity factor in that. And again, Ferrari and those cars of that ilk, especially the older ones, are just rare. They're just, they're not that many of them. Profile-wise, the GTO doesn't look that different from my Stingray. So here, if I had that kind of money, I probably would not. I'd love to drive one, So I'm not attacking people who can do that and want to do that, especially as electric cars, which they'll make a comeback. They'll right size, they'll figure out the engineering issues with electric cars and the shortcomings, the range issues, and the recharge issues. And, I don't know if they'll take over the market, but electric cars will be a thing at some point. And the numbers, performance-wise, of electric cars, the average electric car will rival the greatest of sports cars, because they don't have transmissions. You've got all that torque on tap. So they'll accelerate and feel better than anything. So your measurement of a sports car will just be the driving experience, which is probably why they'll go back to standard transmissions. You want to talk about something that lets you feel apart and different. And that's really what this eventually is all about 20 minutes into this video, while I'm wearing this jacket that, not to brag, looks spectacular. This jacket in its current incarnation, highly modified, not really highly modified, it's just been painted like 4 damn times, which is available online for about $100 and looks the part, is the part. It's real steer hide. It's a real leather jacket. And steer hide, you don't have to be as picky. Well, it's got to be the Sears Hercules from 1950 or the Bucko J24, whatever. Those are great. Those are awesome. And those have D pockets sort of right here where this pocket is, which open all the zippers, everything works. Just crickets, silence with this, whereas there's other stuff that's like $1,000 and people are just like, I can see, okay, you want the $1,000 one over a premium, but you're not even gonna look or consider this one here that may have a rip or have buttons repaired. This one has buttons that are missing. This has issues, right? But it's just been painted. And you're just looking at this one and it's 1/10 of that. It's $100 and you're like, whatever. That's maybe that's someone who's just trying to flip it, you know? And one of the few positive things about this economic turmoil that we're undergoing is that it just hurts people who are just trying to flip everything, and speculators, you know. I like nice things as much as anybody else, but the whole purpose at the beginning of the video was the reason why the guy was touting the $400 t-shirt made off in a foreign land by hand was its durability. But I think a big factor in why people actually end up buying it in the real world is they're wanting to flip it. It's the speculator. They want to play speculators. They want to try to find it, and if, okay, it's $400, maybe in 4 months, 4 years, 10, whatever, it'll be $4,000. And that's enticing, but it's also bullshit, you know? It's not likely, you know? Yeah, it's just a question that I had to ask in front of the camera as a counteract, because it's something, I don't struggle with it, but it's just something that I wanted to bring up with the audience in their own opinion, because I have to seek your opinion, because again, some of these content creators who are trying to give you ideas on what boots to wear, what shirts to wear, what jeans to wear, what biker, you know, leather to purchase, when they make videos where they're actually trying to talk about the quality of the product, it's not even, the content isn't even that great. There was one guy who I've watched for a few years, got quite a collection of leather jackets and boots and whatnot. And he's made a few videos before that made me side-eye him, but he did one a month ago where he was trying to give advice on what to look for in a leather jacket, and all he could give you was, well, check the shoulders for wear and everything, which is not wrong. He was not wrong. It just was woefully inadequate, because again, different types of leather have different levels of porosity, microscopic holes in the leather because it was once skin where hair grew out of. And even the process of turning the hide into what we call leather, is skin that we can wear, doesn't get rid of a lot of that. And the great thing with steer hide leather jackets is that, okay, you don't get the beautiful patina of a flight jacket, but you also don't get something that's so high maintenance. And that's been the thing that I haven't shut up about for a very long time with the leather versus pleather thing. And some pleather is very fragile, especially under certain conditions, but you certainly don't have to goat skin and sheep skin every now and then get yourself some mink oil and stuff that I don't have in front of me. But I spend a decent amount of money on the chemicals necessary to protect my leather. And nobody talks about that, having to do that. They just want to say, go to this maker, go to this person is the authentic, and they just want to vomitos out of their mouth the same shit other people are saying. I get it, yes, Shot and all these other companies, you know, Cockpit USA or whoever they discovered. A lot of times these aren't even Americans who know much about the perspective of what's going on. From a cultural standpoint, talking about this stuff, and it's like, okay, what do you really know about this company? What do you really know about Rolex that makes Rolex expensive? Because it wasn't hyper expensive. They were expensive, but they were attainable for 50, 60, 70 years. And then they became ultra luxury items. What did Rolex do? They're one of the first developers of a fully waterproof watch. the casing being fully waterproof down to so many, not the exact first, but they were right up there on the edge, on the bleeding edge of that technology for 20 some odd years. Submariner, and some of that was actually the Submariners. Is that the Omega? Anyway, but some of the companies that we now are luxury didn't start as luxury. They started out as practical, everyday, or at least attainable products. And that's something that I think you never hear YouTubers talk about. They just want to tell you, well, buy this because it'll just make you feel better about yourself. You'll just be a better person. You'll be better than all the regular people. You'll be a better person. You'll be so fancy if you buy this. And that's really just obnoxious and very much up your ass, And this jacket is as cool in every way as all the fucking jackets on eBay and all the platforms that are $5,000, $6,000, $2,000. Fight me.